This episode was created with the support of Free FM, Hamilton, New Zealand's community access media organisation. Visit us at freefm.org.nz.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Rethinking Mental Wellbeing. This is our community podcast where we can talk about everything related to depression and anxiety. So my name is Andre and I want to thank you for being with me over the next half an hour as we share the space of lived experience where we can talk about how to live the best version of our authentic life. So, if you're ready, then I'm ready. Welcome to the podcast. Hey, welcome back to this week's episode of Rethinking Mental Wellbeing. There's a quote that says, as children we learn to play hide and seek, but as adults we learn how to hide too well, but then we forget how to look. Every human being is born vulnerable and without any understanding into the world that we live in. We're unaware of what this world looks like. We have no reference point. We're a canvas ready to be imprinted on. But we're all born with a framework of needs that we have to get met. And getting these needs satisfied in a healthy way is useful for guiding us through life. So our needs will be our priority for our entire life because we have a hunger, a desire, a craving if our needs are not being met. These will drive all your decisions, they will determine your choices, and they will direct your life. One of these needs, and this need lays the foundation of how other needs are met, is our need to be safe and to feel safe. And we do this through healthy attachments that give us the sense of connection, of belonging, and of love. And because we're unable to get this need met ourselves when we're born, we have to rely on other people around us to get this need met for us, to show us that it's okay to get these needs met, and to teach us how to get these needs met ourselves as we get older. This is done through our family or our parent figures, our carers, our society, and even our culture. This need to feel safe and be safe is universal. But we also have another need that has to be cultivated and nurtured within this atmosphere of safety. And this is our need to be able to show up in life as we are, to feel safe as we express our feelings and emotions in healthy ways. It's the knowing that it's okay to be able to show up with our vulnerability. It's about developing and growing genuine relationships with both ourselves and other people, and how we genuinely and compassionately show up in life. It's being able to express our truth in the world around us and to know that it's safe to be able to do so. This need is our universal need to be authentic, and this is our topic for this week. As we experience life in our early years, we seek to find connections in knowing that we are safe through our attachments to our parent figures. We do this so we can start to explore what it means to be authentically ourselves. So before I go on, I want to make it quite clear that I am in no way parent shaming or blaming. And this is not about placing any form of blame or fault onto parent figures. I have a belief that everybody is doing the best they can. And when I say doing the best they can, that is to get their needs met, learning to be authentic with the tools they have, with the space they're in, with the people that is around them. So your parent figures are on exactly the same journey as you are. So here is the order of priority for us. We need to feel and be safe in order to attach ourselves in a healthy way to our parent figure. So then we can learn how to express our authenticity and therefore how we can show up in the world around us as we mature in life. Sometimes we are taught when we're younger that in order to feel safe or safer, and therefore to keep our attachment so we can feel safe, we had to trade through suppression something that was authentic to us. In other words, we may have learnt to exchange being authentic for the higher need to keep feeling safe. As a baby, as a child, no doubt you cried. And crying is a part of being able to freely express your authenticity. Crying is a natural, biological, and physiological self-soothing mechanism. Crying also releases things like oxytocin and endorphins. And it's important because you're able to better process emotions through the compassionate act of crying. But if the message that we received, either directly or indirectly, or even through the misinterpretation of that message, was that we weren't allowed to cry, if we got the message that crying was bad, that crying was going to make you feel unsafe because of the reaction of our parent figures, then we learn to suppress that crying. Because as a child, as a baby, the currency of being accepted and feeling safe was our priority. And so we learned the lesson that in order to feel and be safe, that meant the suppression, in this case of crying, and therefore our feelings. And so we learned to lay a protection part that is carefully laid over our authenticity for the sake of protection. We may have learned to say to ourselves, this is what I have to do to feel accepted, to feel safe, and to feel connected. And with that, the lesson that comes with it is not safe to feel. And we do that because it served a purpose to you. Here's another example. Maybe many of us have heard this one as well. Be good and do what I say. If that interpretation of this showed up as, if I don't do what they say, then I'm bad, I'm not good enough, I'm not safe or even worthy enough, then we may teach ourselves the lesson that in order to feel worthy, to be accepted, to feel safe or connected, I need to do what others say, because that is the currency of being good. But it comes at the cost of not being allowed to do what I need to do, to be able to explore my needs or even listen to what those needs are. And so for many of us, we learn that our needs are not important, and the focus on us may now be seen as selfish or even wrong. All our experiences in life are learned from this one statement as our reference point. I must, at all cost, make safety and attachment the priority, because I need both of these things to survive. And as we travel into adulthood, we now have a guidebook about what we need to do to live life and to get through life as safely as possible. We have this guidebook, this how-to book about the way we should be, what we should be, and how we are allowed to show up in life. This rulebook tells us about us, the world around us, other people, and our interaction between them all. As an adult, we may be still following the same instructions written by our younger self. Each of you that's listening will have a different rulebook. It'll be passed down from different people, interpreted and experienced in a different environment. The content written and learned may be different, but the chapter headings are something universal that we all share. Maybe these chapter headings sound familiar. How can I feel safe? How can I be safe? How can I feel I belong? Maybe there's a chapter about connection, about being authentic, about getting your needs met. Your priorities don't change as an adult. You still need to feel safe and to be safe, to find healthy attachments, and to get your other needs met. The rulebook we carry with us doesn't just talk about the things we need to be or do or say to keep ourselves safe. Now it's a manual about our self-worth, our identity, and our place in the world as negotiated by other people, but believed as truth from our younger self, but reinforced by our older self. The exchange rate and currency that we use to feel safe and connected will always be measured against the blueprint of our authenticity, our true self. And so for many of us, the rulebook that we carry into adulthood still serves a purpose, but is no longer useful or even current, because we wrote those rules from the lessons that we learned when we were younger to keep ourselves as safe as possible. So we need to revise the version that we carry with us to get an up-to-date copy that is more useful and current. So being authentic means showing up in life as you are by giving yourself permission to show up in life as you are. It's about changing the rulebook to include you and to give yourself permission to live out your authentic nature, not what you feel you have to be. It's about living out the hidden parts of you that have been hiding and protecting the true part of you. Because maybe you have been told that those parts that you've been hiding are not acceptable or approved of in the eyes of other people. Being authentic is your true thoughts and feelings being able to be expressed freely through your actions by the way that you show up in life that honors you and every aspect of your life, including the parts of you that you like, the parts of you you don't like, the parts of you that you accept or don't accept. These parts of us have a purpose, and the purpose is to protect ourselves, to keep ourselves safe. So we have many, many protective parts to us. Maybe some of these protection parts sound like this. I need to please other people to feel safe. I need to keep my distance from my emotions to feel safe. I need to keep people out to feel safe. Or even, I always need to hurt and never forgive to feel safe. All through our life, our humanity is always calling us to be authentic, to find our authenticity and how to create a life where that is able to be expressed freely. That drive that points us to our authenticity, our true self, is like a magnet. You don't need to search for yourself because your truth and your authentic nature is already there. There's a famous quote by Michelangelo when he was asked how he could create these amazing sculptures out of this block of marble. And his reply was, "The sculpture is already there. I'm just chipping away all the rough bits around the edges to get to it and uncover it." You have to uncover your truth beneath the layers that protect you and strive to keep you safe, because there lies your authentic nature. This would be a lot easier if we didn't have things like emotions that get in the way, right? But emotions serve a purpose. They're there for a reason. They have a function. And one of the functions of emotions is that they advocate for your needs. They're designed to get you into action. Emotions will change the way you feel. They change the way you think, the way you remember, the way you behave, all for the purpose of solving a problem or moving towards a goal. Fear, for instance, protects you from danger. It heightens your perception and narrows what you pay attention to. It changes the lens that you interpret the world through into two categories. Is this situation or circumstance, person, useful or not useful for the purpose of escaping this threat? Another emotion is disgust that tries to keep you away from and protect you from pathogens. Shame, for instance, helps you avoid a loss of status and reputation, and to engage in more socially bonding behaviors. Regret is an emotion that tries and attempts to recalibrate your inner world to your outer world, so you can make better decisions in the future. Romance and love obviously bonds us together with people. Gratitude places more emphasis on the value of things or people. And guilt helps us repair relationships that we have damaged or fractured with other people. Lisa Feldman Barrett is a professor and neuroscientist at Harvard University and the writer of some really good bestsellers, including How Emotions Are Made and 7.5 Lessons About the Brain. She tells us that emotions are a summary of a continual status report about the world around us and the world within us. Because what your brain is doing is it's telling itself a story about what is going on within your body in relation to what is happening to the world around you. And it tells you the story using knowledge that you have learned from your past to predict what you are going to experience now. So why does this happen? We need to be able to use our emotions as a tool so we can fix things, protect us from things, move us towards things or move us away from things, appreciate things, miss things, bond to things, connect to things, love things, correct things, and even grow things. You are the architect and interpreter of your experiences. This means we are not stuck with those predictions of our experiences, but we can change our thinking and our interpretation so we can predict and experience things differently. Because your emotions are not actually designed to be accurate. And why on earth are they not designed to be accurate? Anxiety, for instance, is a hyperactivity, a false interpretation of a perception of a threat. It's our vigilance system kicking in that detects threats in the environment. There's a principle called the smoke detector principle. And this says when you're building a smoke alarm, there are two types of errors that are inbuilt on purpose. That they can detect a real fire, which has a more potential to be deadly and catastrophic, or it can detect a fire when there isn't one and just sound the alarm, like when we're cooking and burn the toast, for instance, and that becomes a minor nuisance. So fire alarms are built with a bias towards false alarms to avoid the catastrophic error, because it's better to get out of the way too soon than to get out of the way too late. Anxiety can detect a real threat, which could be deadly, or it could detect a threat when there isn't one, and therefore mounting an anxiety response, which isn't needed. But we also have a bias towards feeling and being safe. So we have a lot of these false alarms, which is our body's way of protecting us and keeping ourselves safe, even if the danger that could happen or might happen never happens. So anxiety has a lot of these false alarms. There's a quote that says, "You are not your thoughts, you are the thinker of your thoughts. You are not your feelings, you are the feeler of your feelings." So being authentic is allowing the kaleidoscope of emotions to be felt without placing a tag of ownership or condemnation onto them. But some emotions are going to feel uncomfortable, and we don't like feeling these uncomfortable emotions. So we often interpret these emotions as not that they are uncomfortable or bad, but we are bad. And these emotions are then attached to us. We then label and judge ourselves according to those emotions, reinforcing the story and the narrative that we tell ourselves about why we are those bad emotions. Things like rejection, humiliation, guilt, shame, and resentment. Now we can start to see them as not judgment stamps, but as a summary that there is an out of alignment between my authentic nature and what I'm presenting to the world. Living more authentically is about stepping away from the parts of us that protect us, so we can move towards our authentic nature that lies underneath. There's a therapeutic modality called internal family systems, and they talk about yourself, your true self, your authentic self, as having some qualities or some traits. Your authentic self is compassionate, it is connecting, it's calm, it's creative, it is curious, confident, courageous. The question we have asked ourselves our entire life of what do I need to be or not be in order to keep myself safe has passed its use-by date. It's no longer relevant to us now if we show up with the same question as an adult, because the way we answered that when we were younger is going to be answered differently as an adult. And so the way we answer that question has now passed its usefulness. You know, everybody that knows you doesn't actually know you. They know a version of you from their own experiences and their own interpretation of those experiences. Even from a genetic design, from a cultural perspective, and even from an intergenerational perspective. So there are 8 billion different versions of you based on the perception of other people, and that's a lot of versions and interpretations. We may have learnt that when we were younger that other people's perspective of us are truer and more reliable than my version of myself. We may have learnt the lesson that in order to be accepted and therefore safe by other people, it will incur a cost, and it will cost me my truth because of the belief we've created, thinking that our truth is not as important as their truth. And in the meantime, our authentic compass that continuously draws us towards the direction that will tell us to prioritize the one person that we have forgotten about, and that is ourself. Your authentic nature, your true nature, has a language that is able to be expressed through this language. This is literally your authenticity speaking through you to the world around you. This type of language is always with you, but it has a need to be expressed into the world and to be put into action. This language is the space between what you know is truth and living out your truth. This language goes under a different name that you're probably more familiar with these days. These days they're known as your values. And so your values are your instruction book. It is your authenticity, following the instructions on how to be lived out and expressed. So how do we start living out our authentic nature? So there's a framework, there's a scaffolding that we can create that moves us in that direction to living a more authentic life. And that scaffolding, that framework, is getting your needs met. And by learning how to get your needs met is learning to live authentically. We have a hunger desire to get our needs met. This is important to know because this becomes our direction and our answer about what we need to do to be able to live more authentically. So getting your needs met is the scaffolding for living an authentic life that you can build on. We're born into a world where we don't have the ability or the capacity to get our needs met. And so we rely on our family unit or our parent figures to get these needs met for us, and ideally to teach us how to get those needs met for ourselves. But we don't come with a manual. No one teaches us what those needs are, but we instinctively know what they are based on our biological requirements as a human being. But we need to get those needs met in a healthy way. Just imagine you're walking through the desert. It's been 5 days, and the one thing that your biology is going to be craving, obviously, is water. So if someone hands you a jug of water, you are not going to say, you know what, there are people who deserve this water way more than I do, so I'm not going to have this water because I'm not a good person. Your biology is not going to stop feeling dehydrated just because we don't believe we deserve the water. You're still going to feel the thirst. You are still dehydrated, but you have not allowed yourself to get what you need to have. So your biology does not understand beliefs or self-worth. You feel dehydrated, you need to get hydrated. Simple. And it's the same with our needs. They're non-negotiable. That getting your needs met is not conditional on our self-worth or our belief system. And if we don't know how to get them satisfied, we're going to find ways to get our needs fulfilled. In other words, to stop the hunger, not necessarily to get the needs met. So let me explain that. If I gave you nothing but hamburgers to eat for the next month, that's going to stop you from feeling hungry. Your hunger would be satisfied. But it doesn't necessarily mean that the quality of food you're eating is healthy. It just stops you feeling hungry. And often in life, we will spend a lot of our time not understanding what our needs are, but we have this hunger that we don't understand where that hunger comes from. And so we psychologically, emotionally, physically consume anything just to satisfy the hunger, to stop us from feeling hungry. But we're not getting the quality we need. So an example of this is one of our needs we have is this need for connection. We need this connection because we're social creatures, we're social animals. We know that there's power and safety in numbers, so we need to bond and connect with other people. Our biology has given us a certain emotion that lets us know that we need to make connection a priority, that it's time to connect. This emotion is designed to assist us to move towards connection. Just like when you're hungry, your biology is telling you to move towards food because that's going to be nutritionally beneficial for you. In the same way, your biology, through this emotion, is telling you to lean towards connection. And that emotion is what we call loneliness. So a part of finding your authenticity is finding the moments and creating the moments, whether it be for a minute, half an hour, or an hour, where you can connect with your authentic self. To make those moments as frequent as you can by giving yourself permission to find those moments to connect to your authenticity. The journey to find your authentic nature is not an easy one, but it's the one you are called to. It's the one that will heal you because you did the best you could to keep yourself safe. You protected your true self the only way you know how. Now you can thank the layers that protected you because their job is done. Now it's time, with compassion and kindness, to meet your true self. Because when you no longer have to try to find the right answer on how to be the right person, you create the space to find the answer to your truth. And when who you are no longer matches the expectation of who they think you should be, then you are free. So that's all I've got for this episode. Thank you for joining me today. And I hope that you've got something useful from this discussion. And if you have any questions you would like us to discuss on future episodes, then please email me at rethinkingmentalwellbeing@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. So until then, go well, go in peace, have a great week, and we'll see you next time.
Free FM podcast was brought to you with support from New Zealand On Air.